行け。
俺たちならできる。1、2、3!
Welcome to another episode of the Two Act Podcast, where we review anime, cinema, and TV. I'm your co-host, Adi, and as always, I'm here joined with gothjon. So for today's episode, we are going to be reviewing a anime film that I have selected called The First Slam Dunk, directed and written by Takahiko Inoue, released in the year 2022. To give you an introduction, the film follows Ryota Miyagi, the point guard of Shohoku High School's basketball team, and their final match against Sano. The film revolves around this match and is based on the manga that came out and the anime that came out in 1995, which aired, I think, for like a few years or a year. It had like a run of 100 episodes. And yeah, they've come back and made this into a film that released not so long ago. It won the Japan Academy Prize for Animation of the Year, and it was also the highest grossing basketball film of all time, and the seventh highest grossing Japanese film of all time. So before we get into all the details, I'm just gonna get into opening thoughts. John, what did you think of the first slam dunk?
Adi, you had me worried. Oh God, 3D animation. I'm like, am I going to get used to this? It was like, 3D animation's like usually pretty jarring unless you're like you getting into it, you're going to get that. So I'm starting to get used to it. I was like thinking, oh God, is this going to hurt the movie for me? And then like once it's like in action, you're just like, oh, and then your brain starts to catch up and you're like, okay, I think I can do this. I think I can watch this. And it really reminded me, do you ever watch Ruby, that Rooster Teeth show?
No, I haven't.
It kind of reminded me of that. Like it was like my first time at 3D animation. I was getting worried, but it definitely came through for me. I actually enjoyed this one.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. This film is like really close to my heart. I watched this in 2023, so it only came out worldwide the year after it released in Japan. And I remember when it came out, I remember watching the anime as a kid growing up. And if you were a kid growing up in the 90s or in the early 2000s and you were into sports or you were watching anime, you must have certainly heard about Slam Dunk. Slam Dunk is like regarded as that one anime that basically got everyone into basketball. It became like the most iconic sports anime. Obviously, now we've had some newer entries that have become more modern, but Slam Dunk still holds up as like that cultural anime, when it comes to sports and basketball. And it's about this team. It's about Shohoku High School, the beloved team that wears red, black, and white. Kind of looks and reminds you of the Chicago Bulls. And the story really, the main character in the anime is actually Hanamichi Sakuragi, the guy who's got the red hair.
Really?
He's the main protagonist. So the entire anime is mostly through his perspective. He's the main protagonist of the show. And it's quite interesting because Hanamichi Sakuragi, before we get into, talking about the film, I do want to just give you a bit of an introduction on the characters so that it makes sense to anyone who's not familiar with the anime. But Hanamichi Sakuragi, the red hair, basketball player in Shohoku, who mostly plays as a rebounder, known for his athletic ability, he was just a juvenile delinquent who was heartbroken because he got rejected by 50 girls. And, he comes across this one girl who he crushes on, as always. And it turns out this girl is actually related to the captain of the high school basketball team. And, she starts chatting up with him and asks him, "Oh, are you into sports? Are you into basketball?" And, he wants to impress her. And he's like, "Yeah, I am," even though he doesn't know anything about basketball. And that's the story. That's how it begins. That's how he gets into this team. He tries to, impress her. That was his only motive. But over the course of that entire anime, you see Hanamichi progress and grow and become a proper athlete who wants to prove himself, who loves the sport. And then you get introduced to all these other characters like Captain Akagi, Hisashi Mitsui, the 3-point shooter, Rukawa, the ace in the team, who's, considered to be the best player in the team. And obviously you got Ryota Miyagi, the short number 7, who is another very important character in this movie. And this is where the movie does something interesting. So the entire anime is about, it's about the comedy, it's about the antics, it's about the journey, it's a tournament arc. It's all about preparing this team, going through their learning curves, going through their own journeys as they want to become and compete in the national tournament for all Japan, and get, you know achieve some success and get good at the sport. But this is what the movie does something interesting with it. So basically, the anime ended without really adapting the lost match. So for those who
Oh.
are fans of the anime, they would be kind of bummed out, like me. Obviously, when I watched the movie, I didn't remember the anime as much because I only watched it like bits and pieces as a kid growing up. So I wasn't like completely up to date with it, but it was like watching this movie brought back a lot of memories. I remembered the characters, I remembered details, and then it made me want to go back and watch the anime, which I did, because then I got even more context about, what the movie does differently. But before we get into our thoughts, what the movie does differently is Takahiko Inoue, who's also the manga creator of this anime and the movie, and the director, first time directing this, by the way, he decides to make this movie by adapting Shohoku's final match in the tournament. And he does this by pivoting the story from Hanamichi's point of view to Ryota Miyagi's point of view, by giving us a new character, by giving us a new backstory to get into through his perspective, while still allowing us to get into the movie by seeing all the other characters who are part of the team. And that's kind of how the movie begins. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because for those who may not be aware, I think it's a very bold choice as a creator to do that, because normally if you're adapting a classic, usually it's always a straightforward adaptation. But doing this by, changing the perspective, changing the POV of the protagonist, and doing so in a way that makes the story accessible for new viewers, maybe like you, while
Yep.
still while still giving a lot of like rich context, and giving that satisfying end that fans of the anime never got when they watched the show like 30 years ago. you know so that's just something I had to bring up to to
Okay.
to really give you a full context on the show. But yeah, no, the animation, we all know how bad 3D animation can be, right? I mean,
I
there's
can
been
think
some
of
pretty,
3 on the top of my head right now that cause me
yeah,
shivers. Like
which,
Berserk, the animation.
oh,
You're
Berserk,
like,
yeah, it was
oh,
horrible, horrible, horrible.
oh,
Uh,
oh.
I've not watched all of Berserk, but I've heard, notoriously heard about that one
hmm
having horrible animation. And which other ones come to your mind?
There's, I can't remember the show. Golden Kamui has some bad. So whenever the bears like attack them or whatever, they start moving weird, and it's like, what the fuck? You're like, this show's really good.
No, it is a good show. It's kind of like it's set in like a post, like a World War kind of like setting.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's
but
like
yeah, I
post-war
remember
Japan.
post-war Japan, but I remember the animation. It tried to do this blend with the 3D and 2D,
Weird.
and it looked horrible. Now, going into this movie, I only watched like bits of the trailer, and the trailer doesn't really give away much. So, for me, I walked into this completely blind when I watched it in the cinema, and I was like blown away by what they achieved with this, because it's almost never a good idea, like trying to mix and blend 2D with 3D CG. But the way they do this to show you how the sport is in action, I thought was quite impressive. Like, the whole movie is like, it revolves around one match, which is this big match that Shohoku plays versus Sano. Sano are considered to be the invincibles. They're the reigning champions. They're the favorites, and they're going up against Shohoku, who are like kind of a rookie team. Not really considered. They're underdogs.
Yep.
They're not considered to be the best, and it makes for an interesting match. I thought it was quite like interesting because usually, when you watch sports stuff or you watch like anything like shonen related, is always like a tournament arc. You always see the progression to get to the final. This is like entirely set in that one match where the story happens.
Yeah, I had a question about the broccoli hair guy. Does he have broccoli hair in the original anime?
The broccoli hair guy, you talking about the
The
Ryota
main.
Miyagi?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, he has the same hairstyle, but
It's like this hair like reminds me of like modern day like Gen Z bros. I was like, what is this?
no.
But I know it's from the 90s. I was like, what?
No, he has the same hairstyle, but
Okay.
I guess the
Okay.
broccoli doesn't pop as much as it does in 3D, I suppose.
Yeah, I was like, what the fuck? And
Oh,
then
you should see Hanamichi. He had like a pompadour. He had
okay.
luscious red.
Okay, it was very 90s. It was very like
It was yeah, it was
like Yu Yu
really
Hakusho.
90s. Exactly.
Okay.
You hit it right
Yeah.
on the head with
Yeah,
that reference.
I saw the art style from the 90s, and it was really of that time. It was really looked exactly like all those shows. It looked like Yu Yu Hakusho, like Dragon Ball Z. It looked like all those shows. It was that
Very
art style.
retro. Very
Yeah.
retro 90s. And yeah, it's like, I don't think like it's crazy that he comes back like, almost 22 years later, and he makes, he decides to like adapt because the anime, like I said, it ends kind of abruptly. It doesn't have,
They
you
run
know,
out of money.
they just, yeah, I don't know what it is. I think they just like probably didn't, they had plans to continue the story, and they probably couldn't.
All right.
But it's such a iconic like cultural
Mm-hmm.
thing for this anime, because everyone who grew up during that era must have heard or watched it if they were
Yeah.
fans of like sports, or
Yeah.
they must have heard about it. It's like one of
Yeah,
those
I heard of
Dragon
it.
Ball Z, you
Yeah.
know.
But it was more like, so I was like a sports guy when I was a little kid. I'm like, I watched basketball and I watched football, American football, and basketball. Like I watched Michael Jordan and all that. Yeah, like Space Jam. So my rudimentary understanding of the rules is because I played basketball video games on my Sega Game Gear. It was NBA Jam, and I'd always pick the Chicago Bulls, and they had Scottie Pippen. And
Yeah,
then I grew up, and I was like, okay,
he
maybe
was
I'm
one of
not
their best players. Pippen
exactly.
and
He
Jordan.
was a short guy like me, and he was like had a crazy vertical like the Sakuragi.
Yeah, Sakuragi. He's kind of like, I think he's a power forward. I don't know if you're aware of the
No
positions,
idea.
but
I know
but
like front guard. That's about it.
what? It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even
No,
matter
it
because
doesn't. You don't even have to understand basketball to enjoy it.
that's the beauty of this movie. Is like my main concerns going into this was, look, I know basketball. Like, I
Mhm.
know a bit about basketball. I've watched NBA. I watched stuff growing up. I wouldn't say I watch it on a regular basis,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't say that I'm a diehard basketball fan. But going into this, I was concerned. I did have questions. I was wondering, am I gonna be into this? And I'm sure you yourself may have felt that as well. Like, would you be interested in watching
if
a basketball anime movie?
so you if you didn't talk me into it, I definitely wouldn't have.
Absolutely, and that's the beauty. That's the beauty of discovering new films. Is like
Yeah.
sometimes you give it a shot, and you may end up liking it. Sometimes it may
Yeah.
not be your thing,
Yeah, Adi,
but
you make me watch some weird stuff sometimes. And it's okay. I do the same. Our next one, that one's gonna send you for a loop. It's gonna be great.
that's the whole point of doing this. We want to challenge ourselves and do stuff people wouldn't normally. Like I don't see a lot of people talking about this, and it breaks my heart because like this movie. I know we've not even gotten into the plot yet, but there's so much about this movie that inspires me, and I watched it at a particularly low point in my life, and I ended up watching it 4 times in a row. I liked
Holy
it that
smokes.
much.
In the
And when
theater?
yeah, in the theater, because I watched it. So I watched it the first 2 times back to back, and then I had to go
Wow.
watch the anime. I completed the anime, and that
Mm.
was an excruciating run. It wasn't easy to complete the anime, and the anime now is quite old. It's quite dated. The animation style feels choppy. There's a lot of filler. There's a lot of like you got like one game that takes place around like it takes around 14 episodes for that one game to end because there's so much going on in that game, just to get through. But it's like an arc. It's like one of the main games. And that's kind of like how it was back in the day. TV back in the day was like that. It wasn't the television we get today where, they're like mini movies. Every episode's like cinematic, a mini story of its own. Back in the day, everything was always a continuation. It was always a snippet. It was always a cliffhanger for the next week. And watching that, I was just like, I was impressed by the camaraderie of this team, the journey of this team, what the backstories are explored more deeply in the show, obviously. But I was concerned, I was interested to know like how the movie would handle that. How do you take something that's been made so long ago and then make it into a movie where you have fans who'll still come back to watch it, of course, but how do you still make it in a way where someone new who has no idea about the anime may still be able to enjoy it? Is it still accessible? And that's kind of one of the reasons why I wanted you to watch it, because I wanted to get your perspective. Like, you've never seen the anime, you may have heard of it, or you may have like seen the
No,
art style or
I've
whatever.
seen the art style, and it
Yeah,
was I knew of it. It's like
you knew of it. Yeah,
yeah, like I knew of it. It's like the ping pong animation, like I heard of it. Like it wasn't
yeah.
necessarily something because I'm not a sports guy that I'm gonna like jump into unless I have
But I bet you
somebody's
like this a lot more than ping pong.
I did. I did. I did.
Yeah, no, it's like I think the thing that really got me the most that I wasn't expecting when I watched the movie was how emotional of a story the movie is. Like the story is so emotional. It's sad. It's layered with like hope. It's layered with resilience. It's layered with so much nuance with the callbacks and the flashbacks, and there's some key flashbacks taken directly from the anime and placed into the movie that give you context, or even if it doesn't tell you the whole story, it gives you clues to like what each character is going through. And there's like a big psychological warfare happening with Shohoku as they take on Sano, and they're in
Mm.
this game which is really intense. But let's get to the beginning. The movie really begins with Miyagi's character, Ryota, who's like playing basketball with his brother. And then tragedy strikes. Full spoilers, by the way, but tragedy strikes here where he's playing basketball with his older brother, and his older brother ends up dying in a accident at sea, and it basically spirals. It sends Ryota spiraling in his life, because all of a sudden now he's lost his father, he's lost his brother, and he becomes kind of like the responsible male figure in like the only male figure in his family, who is now his mother and his little sister. And it kind of shows you, like, you know his brother was his inspiration, who got him into basketball, and he wants to carry on that passion of playing basketball. But then it cuts to this incredible pre-title sequence. I don't know what you thought about the soundtrack, but it starts off. You see the front five of the Shohoku basketball team
I was
drawn
like,
in like a
who the
manga
fuck are
board.
these people? I think they're the basketball players. I'm not sure. And then they got
Yeah,
this giant gory guy.
yeah. Takanori, Captain Akagi Takanori, lovingly known as Gory or
Gory
Gorilla.
dunk.
Yeah, that's actually Hanamichi calling him that, because as a way
Okay.
to like piss him off.
Oh,
But then
okay. Like
but
he's an
then it
ogre.
turns, yeah, and then it turns into this endearing term to call him that, and then the whole team starts calling him that.
Hell
But
yeah.
yeah, the opening theme song is called Love Rockets, played by this Japanese garage rock band called The Birthday.
Okay.
And it's an absolute banger of an opening. You see the electric guitar and the drums banging in, and you see this team. It's like a storyboard come to life, and they
Mhm.
walk onto the pitch, and then you see the opposing team sketched, and then the animation's coming to life, you know, and it just blends into like this beautiful 2D 3D animation art style that takes place in the basketball court. And then that is then contrasted with some of the 2D animation we see in the beach scenes and in the coastal scenes set in Miyagi's Backstory, which is in Okinawa, which is a beautiful Japanese island. That's where he's from. But what did you think of that opening?
I thought it was all right. As
Yeah.
somebody that's not familiar with Slam Dunk, it doesn't do as much for me.
Yeah,
Uh,
obviously. I mean, you wouldn't
yeah, I
expect
was,
you
I
to
was
know
like,
who these
I
guys
don't
are.
know who all these guys are. And then like the opposing team, they all kind of look the same, and I'm like,
They do
okay.
look the same. They got like the same
They almost got
haircut.
the same haircut. It kind of reminded
Yeah,
me of
yeah.
Dragon.
Yeah, they do. They
They're all
do. I, I
bald.
was I wasn't even able to like differentiate the characters as well
Right.
until I watched it like a few times, and then I was like, okay, now I see the difference.
Well,
But you're
other than
right.
like they also have an ogre,
Yeah.
they got their own guy.
So the center of each team is like the largest and the tallest guy, whose
Okay.
job is to like basically protect the
Block
basket,
shots. Yeah.
and also go for like dunks, you
Okay.
know. And that's the whole thing. Hanamichi, the reason why it's called slam dunk is because Hanamichi spends the entire anime trying to slam dunk. In fact, that's his. You could say that's the one thing that he possesses: the natural ability to jump high. But
Mhm.
he can't slam dunk. He wants to, but he
Right.
ends up slamming the captain on the head with the basketball.
How?
And the coach sees potential. The lovable coach, the overweight coach Anzai, who's
Yeah, Colonel Sanders.
yeah, he sees the potential in Hanamichi. And it's interesting because the tone in the show is a lot more comedic. It's a lot
Yeah,
more
I could
goofy.
definitely see that,
Um,
especially when Sakuragi does the 1,000 years of pain jutsu.
yeah,
If
it's
you
like
if you get
patting
the
his cheeks.
reference, props to you.
Yeah.
It's a Naruto thing because there's a thing where Naruto puts his fingers up Kakashi's butt, or
Oh,
Kakashi
right.
does that to Naruto, and he goes 1,000 years of pain.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like the redhead. He's fun.
Yeah, no, it for me it was so funny seeing him like it's kind of weird. It's like imagine watching, you know,
A show where your pro tag isn't the pro tag. Yeah.
exactly, and
Yeah,
he's
that
just
would be
he's
strange.
there. It's but it's a different point of view. He's still important. He's
All
still
right.
in very much part of the movie, but it's a different point of view.
Mm.
And it's a conscious choice done so that, you know, someone new can latch onto the
Right,
story.
right.
Look,
So you can have
I'm a
the
character person. I'm not gonna
yeah.
lie. I get attached to characters. You know, if I find a character that I, you know, like and I really feel for their story, feel for what they go through, it's easy for me to root for them. And I think, you know, when you look at Miyagi's backstory, it's quite tragic what happens to him. You know, what he goes through as a kid, you know, losing his big brother. His mother kind of like hates the idea of like basketball now because like it reminds her
Her, her dead son. Yeah.
of her, yeah, her dead son. And for him it's like, you know, the shadow of his brother's death weighs heavily. Like he doesn't possess the same natural raw talent that his brother had playing the sport. His brother could have probably become like a national level basketball player. He's clearly not there yet, you know, but that
Mm,
doesn't stop him because that's like the only thing that's getting him by, the only thing that, you know, he can cope with. It becomes a coping mechanism
mm,
for him. And I think that was quite touching for me to see that because I was shocked because when I watched the anime does not explore Miyagi's backstory. So
mm,
I had no idea that this is what he went through when you see him in the anime. In the anime, he's kind of a troublemaker. You know, he's kind of like a trouble kid getting into trouble. You know, he's always getting into fights. He's always cocky. You know,
He's a
you look at
delinquent.
him exactly like most of these characters are in the
Yeah.
team. You look at them and
Yeah.
you're like,
They're
yeah,
a
this
team of
guy's
delinquents.
their team, a complete team of delinquents. Hanamichi is doing this because he wants to impress a cutie. You know,
Who can blame him?
he's been rejected by 50 girls and he's
Yeah.
heartbroken in the anime. But you see the progression of what he achieves over the show, and you realize there's growth. You know,
Yeah.
there's growing pains, there's adversity, there's like, and this is where like watching this, I felt like for me, the underdog is always the winner.
Mhm.
Like it doesn't matter if they lose. If they lose, they're winners who don't win. And if they
Did
win,
you
they're winners.
think they were gonna lose? Come on.
Well, you know, they do lose the next match in the manga at least. So the manga, this is the final match of the
Oh,
manga. But
that's funny. They lose the next one. Oh my god. So they
this is
go to
the
like worlds
no. They
or
don't go to
nats.
Worlds. Basically, this is the final match in the manga.
Okay.
And the epilogue, it's mentioned that they couldn't make it past the next round because obviously, you know, what happens to the players and their injury, and you
Well,
know. But
yeah. Yeah.
the fact that they beat Sano, which is like the team, the invincible team, the favorites, the best team in Japan in high school, is itself like a big thing for them. But that's the epilogue in the manga. In terms of the anime never adapted that story. The movie does, and the movie ends with it. You know, it completes the manga, and it's very much the definitive ending for like the Shohoku arc and like what they go through and that story. We can get into the like if you're curious to know what happens, like I can tell you a bit because I read about like what happens in the manga and stuff. But
Okay.
this is where it ends though. You know,
Okay.
this is the last match. What that the movie decides to adapt. And now they could have just made that into a movie, right? They could have just said, okay, yeah, let's just do a straight adaptation, you know, get all the same things that we did in the anime. But no, they do something different. Inoue decides I'm gonna make Miyagi the main protagonist. I'm gonna give you his backstory, his point of view, and I'm gonna show you the story from his lens so that new fans can like get attached to the story, while fans of the original will still be able to recognize all the all the big moments in the movie, all the characters, all the little references that we get. So that's kind of like how the movie's made, which I thought was quite impressive, because like normally when you see like remakes being made, you see all these adaptations that they do straight from, like, I don't know, Disney, for example. They would just do a straight up, direct adaptation without like.
Those live action, they're killing me.
Exactly. They just do a live action, just do like a direct straight
Well, it
adaptation.
doesn't feel like they even wanted to remake it. Like
No,
they
it
did it
was
just
more
for
like a cash
money.
grab.
Like this feels like an actual passion project. Like
It is, yeah.
the mangaka like actually feels like he's involved.
He's involved. This is his first time directing.
He did a
He's
good job.
also he's also one of the most prominent mangaka artists who's sold one of the most popular mangas called Vagabond. I don't know if you
Yep,
heard of it.
I've heard
It's
of
it's
Vagabond.
it's on a hiatus right now. I don't think that I don't I hope I live to see the day that gets turned into an adaptation in anime,
Mm,
but I really don't think it'll ever happen. Or if it does, I don't know. It'll only happen if Takahiko Inoue decides that he gets to do it in his own terms, because
right.
that is a lot more spiritually deep story that, I don't know if the world's ready to see yet on anime. But Slam Dunk, it's such an interesting parallel. Inoue growing up was a big fan of the sport, and his dream was to see Japan like play in the Olympics in basketball. And that's kind of like one of the reasons why he made this anime, or was an
To get
inspiration.
young guys inspired to
Yeah,
play basketball in the Olympics.
yeah, yeah,
That's pretty
yeah,
funny.
yeah, yeah. And
It's like the Jamaican
if I'm not
bobsledding team. You know, anybody
and
could
I'm
dream.
yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, they actually made it to the Olympics a few
Okay,
years ago.
cool.
So yeah, I think that was pretty cool to see that, and
Did they come out wearing the gear
I
from the
don't know,
slam dunk? That would be great.
it would be great, but I just want to get your perspective. So like, watching this, you're seeing new faces,
Mhm.
this basketball happening. What's going through your mind? What did you think about like that opening few,
Um,
sequences when the game
well,
starts? Did you get into it right away?
it took me a little bit. The flashbacks were kind of killing me a little bit. Like the first one, I was fine. Again, I was fine with that one because that's the setup. But yeah, like some of it it just feels like it came to a grinding halt. Like I'm watching the action. I'm just like, oh, sweet. And
Yeah,
the sound, like the sneakers and like the
yeah,
basketball hitting the
squeaking
court. Yeah, all of that.
board.
It reminds me of just watching a basketball game. So they did
Yeah,
like really good sound effects. They did a good job on that. Because if
yeah,
you've ever watched a basketball game, because of how they prep the floor, it all you hear is sneakers going all over the place.
squeaking. Yeah, you hear a
Exactly.
lot of
And
squeaks. You
if you've
hear
ever been on a
kids.
basketball court, that's what it sounds like. Whether you're professional or you're a kid.
The sound design for this film is phenomenal. I watched live action basketball movies. I watched
Hmm.
documentaries. Trust me, this is more realistic than it ever comes.
Right.
The details that you hear with the skids and the sneakers, the squeaks, the ball bouncing, the sound of air swooshing, the
Hmm.
net rippling, everything is so well captured. Whoever did the foley for this film, I mean, they really went all out.
Hmm.
They went that extra mile to make sure they captured all those intricate sounds that you would hear, as if, like you said, as if you were actually watching a basketball game live, in front of you happening. So the sound design carries a lot with the way the sequences play out, and I think maybe that helps the animation, to consume it. Did you
Yeah,
feel that way, or?
it definitely helps the 3D animation style because so like we were saying earlier, 3D animation can kind of take you out of it. But the like the combination with that sound, it did eventually at some point. I definitely got completely enveloped in the 3D animation, and I was on board for it. It was just because, like, in action, I was just like, okay, all right, I can watch this. That isn't going to be the thing that pushes me out of this show.
No, it was actually quite praised for its animation because it was this groundbreaking blend of
A
2D
three
hand
and
drawn.
three. Yep.
Yeah, it had 2D hand drawn animation, which was kind of like that hallmark from the original anime, and then it had elements with 3D CGI to animate the fluid basketball sequences that make every play feel dynamic and immersive. Captures the sweat, motion, and intensity in a way that's a huge leap from the 90s anime, almost being photorealistic at times. And the I guess that all that goes down to the creator's involvement in this, because he was like, he had complete creative control over making this movie. And I guess like it kind of paid off. Like he made sure that, it wasn't jarring. When you see those sequences set in the flashbacks by the coast in Okinawa, you see the color palette. It's a lot more softer. It's a lot more mellow, melancholic, and it has this beautiful 2D animation. But then when you see the game being played out, it's just like a different world. And there's moments where like the 2D and the 3D blend in the game. I thought that was quite impressive to pull off. Like normally you could always tell like, oh, okay, why this, when there's a sudden change in art style, it's very evident. Like you would react to that. You would know and be like, oh, wait, that looks off. Like, why is it jarring and cutting away and becoming 3D all of a sudden? But you don't notice that when you see this because of how fluid the animation is. It's almost like, it's almost like the sport, like the ball's in motion, and it's like moving from 2D to 3D. And I thought that was just like on a technical level. I just haven't seen a lot of anime be able to pull that off successfully. Even if we keep the story elements aside, there's still like a lot of there's a lot of like technical excellence with the way they've managed to animate that sequence around the whole match that I think normally you'd see a lot of animes fail to capture. Like
They
I can't see
will
many animes.
rely too hard on the 3D. That's what a lot of the animes get wrong.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, so in modern day where you rely on AI tools more than to actually make things. And then you have all this slop on YouTube and all that. So it's when you use 3D as a tool and not as a get out of jail free card. It really helps in that aspect.
Yeah, it does. It does. And I guess it really helps with the storytelling because, the film switches point of view to Miyagi, making him the central narrator instead of Hanamichi, like the anime. But the fresh take adds depth to the story, blending the intense game with like poignant flashbacks that explore character motivations without feeling kind of forced. It's a smart way to revisit the manga and the anime, but I can totally see why you would feel like it takes you off the action. So like the game really begins and it's like it's a very fast paced game. It's very up and down. It's first
Yeah.
half. I think like, this is where Sano are like, okay, we're gonna take control of this game and we're gonna completely break them apart because they're rookies. They're not gonna be able to deal with our press. And
You're
after
gonna
this
box
half,
them in.
yeah, we're gonna box them. We're gonna zone press them in.
So what that means is, if you're not familiar with basketball, because I'm not, it's when you have more than one player surrounding the person with the ball.
Yeah. And that's exactly what happens to Miyagi because Ryota Miyagi is like, he's the point guard of the team. He's conducting the sequence of play. He's moving the ball. He's the fastest on the pitch in his team. And his whole job is like to get the ball moving from back end to the end to the front court. And, he gets surrounded. And as he gets pressed, you get to see that, they struggle to contain possession and they start conceding a lot of points. And all of a sudden, Sano have built a healthy lead. They're up against they're up against one of Japan's best players in Sawakira, the number 9 in Sano. And you can see there's a bit of rivalry between him and Rukawa, the number 11 in Shohoku, the guy with the long hair who's like, considered to be the ace of the team. Rukawa in the anime is almost like this. The guy with the speaks the least, doesn't really say much,
Okay.
but he's the best ability wise. Like
He's kind of a ball hog.
he's a ball hog. And the problem with Rukawa
Yeah.
is he doesn't pass the ball. He wants to do it all by himself because
He wants to be the Michael Jordan.
he wants to be the
team.
Michael Jordan of the team. His archetype is, I'm gonna carry my team on my back and I'm gonna do it myself. And I guess he wants to prove that he's the best in Japan. He wants to go to America and he wants to prove that he can do it. But he needs to, I guess his learning curve is to realize that, he can rely on his team to get there. He doesn't need to do it all by himself. And then you see that rivalry play out. And you see Hanamichi at this point. Like, what was your impression of Hanamichi? Like, did you, what did you think of him?
Hanamichi. I don't remember the names.
Red hair?
Red hair?
Yeah.
Oh, Sakuragi.
Sakuragi, yeah.
He's my favorite. He's got crazy vertical. His back's fucked up now, but he was fucking shit up. He was. Yeah. He's crazy. I like him.
Yeah, he's just like the
kind of makes you want to watch a really old 90s anime. That's the kind of, like, if he's the main character in the original anime, like, I'll get my filler guide out just like I did with One Piece. I'll skip all the filler and I'll just watch the anime.
Hanamichi is an absolute machine. He's a mentality monster. That's what he is. He provides the guts in the team. And I think it's really important what they do with this character because, like, I think a lot of concerns fans would have had was like, wait, what do you mean he's not the main character? How could you not have him be the main character? But I was worried about that too when I watched it again, and I was thinking about it from their point of view, and I was like, you know what? It's fair for them to think that, but I was so glad they made him the most clutch character in the team by the end of the match. For what
they wouldn't even have won.
Yeah,
without him.
For what he goes through, for what he does to like jolt and wake up the team.
Yep.
It's so unorthodox because he's an amateur.
He's jumping on tables and screaming and putting his fingers in people's butts.
Yeah. He's just doing like absolute, shithousery. He's just whining. He's winding his captain up. But he's doing this because he wants his team to fight. He wants them to, break out of this lull. Because all of a sudden they're like 15, 20 points down.
Yeah.
And they're in trouble.
You kind of like getting ready to pack it in,
Yeah.
Basketball's kind of pretty much like a relay race with rebounds when you really think about it.
Up and down. And I think the thing
I was getting out of breath just watching them.
That's the thing is like, you're at the edge of your seat looking at the game go up and down and you're thinking, you're
like,
looking at the scoreboard. The scoreboard's going up and down, and you're thinking, oh shit, like they're in a deficit. But it's so much of it is mental as much as it is physical, because like you look at while this is happening, you look at like moments with the characters and what they're going through. You see the captain, Akagi, who's like having doubts looking at the opposition's captain and he's thinking to himself, can I actually beat this guy? Like they're like towering over each other like absolute kaijus, they're like flexing and they're showing dominance. They're titans. And then you see a moment where like I think he goes for a dunk and he misses. He ends up like colliding with the other center, the other captain. And then you kind of see a little sequence in his brain play out where he's like having this internal battle thinking about like, he's a senior. This is his last year. His dream is to like go to the nationals and win it, and he's thinking like, can I still achieve this? Am I worthy of being at this stage? And then you see him having to squash that dialogue in the back of his mind and get up and start playing again because he's the leader of the team. And when he starts playing
Mhm.
well, the whole team believes. And that's what happens in the first half is you see while they manage to play well and keep it level, but when they suddenly lose the 15 20 point lead and they go down,
Mm.
you kind of see the doubt creeping in. You kind of see, everyone's going through their own issues. You got Mitsui, the number 14 3 point shooter, the guy who shoots the points from far away, with 3 pointers. He's running out of breath. He's completely wrecked.
Yep. He can't raise his arms.
He couldn't even raise his arms. And what's interesting is like his backstory in the anime is so big. It's so
Mm.
it's so pivotal to understand like why he's so exhausted. Cause like if you're a first time viewer watching it, you're just thinking, why is this guy out of breath? I mean, he's meant to play like, isn't he a professional? Like, isn't he meant to be like, But then you realize like when you watch the anime, you realize there's some sequences in the movie where you see him with long hair, and he turns out he was a bully, and the reason he became a bully was because he was once a very promising player, and then he had a nearly career-ending injury on his knee that took him
Mm.
out of the sport. And when that happened, he became bitter, and he started, you know, he became a bully. He hated the sport. He hated what it made him feel like because he thought he couldn't get it again. And that's why you see that flashback with him having a fight with Miyagi, with Ryota.
Yep.
That's a very big moment in the anime because, they end up getting in a pretty brutal fight. And ironically, he even met him as a kid because you see that earlier flashback where Ryota's playing by himself and he comes along and he like, has a little 1v1 and tells him, "Oh, are you new here?" But then you see past that and you see, he's got longer hair, he's a different appearance. It's got different appearance. And then he has a fight with Miyagi, which, it's really brutal because that kind of like drives Ryota nearly to suicide, thinking about what he's going through. But yeah,
Mm.
Mitsui is like he's I think his for him this is like a big redemption arc because he comes back into the team only because of the coach. The coach told him to never give up. And that kind of inspires
Mm.
him to come back to the team, apologize. And that's why he's not quite at his peak physical fitness level, but he's there. He's part of the team
Mm.
and he's the best shooter in the team who can get those 3 pointers from far away. So that's like one of the other characters in the Shohoku team that are, again is a very prominent character, and his it's interesting that the movie explores that backstory with Ryota because in the anime you wouldn't realize how deep it was until you see it now with like what Ryota has to go through. But that is like there's a lot of like flashbacks with Ryota, a lot of it exploring him trying to play basketball after his brother's death, not quite making it in. People look at him and think, "Oh, he's never going to be his brother." He
They always compare him to him.
yeah, the weight, the grief, and the weight of his brother's death looms like a shadow over him. No matter what he does, it gets to a point where his mother like literally gets into a fight and removes anything related to do with basketball from their home because she's upset. And then they move to a different city, and he struggles to fit in. He gets bullied, he's outcasted, he's lonely, and it gets to a point where like there's one deep scene in the movie where like he's literally riding a bike and like nearly ends up killing himself.
Jesus.
It's a really like deep, it's a really emotional moment because it's like this is what he's going through, but he's got no one to talk to. All he has is basketball, like this is the only thing he knows. This is the only thing that his brother left for him is wanting to like continue that. It gets him by as a coping mechanism. And that nearly drives him to suicide. I thought that was like a really dark and deep thing. Like, I didn't expect the movie to do that. I wasn't expecting his backstory to be as, you know, emotional as it was, or as sad as it was. There's a lot of sadness looking at that backstory. I don't know if you
Yeah,
felt
all
that
these
way.
guys, they're all messed up.
They're all going through
Yeah.
their
Well,
own.
so they're all teenagers, and they're all going through a lot of shit at like the worst time in their life to go through all that, because you have already a bunch of hormones and emotions going on. And
I mean, it's just stuff like, for him, for Ryota, it's the grief over his brother's death, his family losses.
yeah,
It kind of anchors the emotional core. You look at Hanamichi, for Hanamichi, Sakuragi, the red hair. It's like
yep.
the growth from being an ego-driven rookie to a team player. He thinks he's a genius. He believes he's a genius. And then for the captain, it's his leadership doubts. For Rukawa, it's
Mhm.
perfectionism. For Mitsui, it's redemption. I mean, these aren't just athletes, they're just teens dealing with real life issues like loss,
Mhm.
ambition, self doubt. Making the story, I think what that does, it just makes the story a lot more universally relatable, don't you think?
Mm. Yeah, I agree.
Did you feel like, you know, did that remind you of like what it felt like to be a teenager watching?
I don't think I got that deep into it. But I did relate a little bit with them, but it
Like how
was
troubling it can
those
be.
flash exactly. It's those flashback scenes, like I was saying, like they get me out of it.
Mm,
I want to get back in the film. I feel like the film is its best for me is when they're playing the game.
yeah, which is
That's when
thankfully a
yeah,
lot more than the
most of it.
flashback.
Yeah.
Because it
Yeah.
is it is a 2 hour movie, and
Yep.
I must admit, like, I think it's difficult from a storytelling point of view, because you want to add like some callbacks, you want to add some
Right.
references, but it's difficult to do that without going into like flashback territory. So I completely understand.
Yep.
I feel like there's moments where it does feel that way, like there's like, oh, maybe a bit one too many.
Yeah, like some of them work better for me and some of them work worse, but it's hard to tell you which were that way because it kind of all just melds together for me.
Yeah, it does. It does. I mean, there's like every time there's a break in play, it goes to a flashback.
Yeah.
But like, were you engaged with the match? What was happening at the
Yes,
game?
I was engaged with the match 100%.
Did
The
you
flashbacks I
think when they
was
were like
like
20?
10%.
Did you think when they were like 20 points down? Like, what was going through your mind? Like, what did you
Oh,
think?
I was like, so I don't know these characters, but I've watched a lot of anime. I'm like, well, they're gonna at least get close. If they're not gonna win, they're gonna get close. Like, so after the halfway point where they kind of like pull their heads out of their asses, then I'm like, okay, well, the dream is alive. They could win this.
I think the pivotal point was like the coach decides to take out Sakuragi from the game. He subs him out.
Yep. Hmm.
Sakuragi is absolutely pissed at this decision. It's like, you're taking out a genius like me? Like, the old man's already giving
Right.
up? It turns out the reason why he took him out was because he wanted to show him, like, look, that's your window of opportunity. You could be right now in this moment, you know, rebounding and like providing the team with a scoring opportunity to turn the table. And it kind of just gives him the encouragement and like the guidance he needs at that point, because he's not involved in the game at that whole up to that point. Like, you barely see a lot from Sakuragi. You're just wondering, like, this guy even like relied on in the team, like, what's he doing there? And then, when he goes back in, all of a sudden he's a rebounding machine. Like, he's just
Yep.
picking up every
He's like, I'll
ball.
show him. Yeah, he takes it. I don't know the guy's name, but I think him as the glasses guy.
Yeah, the glasses guy. The
He's
glasses
like,
guy is like one of the
who
seniors in the
can
team. Yeah,
apparently can shoot a 3-pointer, but that's about it.
yeah, yeah.
Cannot rebound for shit.
No, no, and then that's like one thing that's very like it's just like really special about Sakuragi is his ability to like jump high up in the air.
Well, he's jumping as high as the front guards are, so
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
guy can dunk.
Yeah, he can dunk, and it's like he can't. The problem is like when you watch the anime, he doesn't
Yeah, he
know.
doesn't have the fundamentals
He
down.
doesn't have the fundamentals. He doesn't know how to shoot. He doesn't know how to.
Yep.
All he can do is like pass. You can even see in the movie he like makes an amateur mistake of like dribbling twice.
Yeah, yeah, he double
He
dribbles.
double
Yep.
dribbles.
Yeah, I see.
And
Yep.
there's like he's still like raw, he's still an amateur, but he's getting
Right.
better. He has he has the ability to get better, and he does get
Mm-hmm.
better. But you see, he's not quite there yet. He's still rough on the edges. But what he does provide is like this intense, unmeasurable, unwavering spirit in the game for his team,
Mm-hmm.
which his team lacks in that moment because as they go lower and lower, as the deficit goes higher and higher, you
Mm-hmm.
start to see like the team's kind of losing momentum, and basketball is like all about momentum. It's like a very momentum driven sport, and when you see that happening, it kind of makes you think like, oh shit, like what are they going to do? Because like the only way they can bail themselves out of this situation is if they shoot, or if they like find a way to like breach the defense
Oh,
and breach the press.
yep.
And
Shoot a lot of 3-pointers.
which
Shoot a lot of half-court shots.
Which kind of like what happens is like they start breaching the press, and you see like Mitsui making a lot of 3-point shots, and it kind of like brings the deficit down. But let's not forget the opposition was still in the game. Like you
Mm-hmm.
still see they're so good that they're just
They're
able to,
still
they're
scoring when
still
they're
scoring.
even making the deficit up.
Yeah. Were you engaged with the way with the way they presented the opposition, or like you couldn't care less? Like, what was your like?
Well, like I said earlier, like I couldn't tell the difference other than the really big guy.
Yeah,
The really big guy is the only guy that looks different.
yeah,
Like they all kind of have the same haircut,
yeah. They do.
and they don't all they some of them have some personality, but for the most part, they all kind of felt the same.
Yeah, they do.
Other than the guy that runs tandem with
Rukawa.
the
Yeah,
main character,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
he's like the only one that kind of had personality, but that's just because he's kind of like a arrogant prick.
Yeah, he's considered to be the best, and then they have a bit of.
Yeah, and he definitely is on their team.
He is because like he starts like breaching through their defense. He does stuff like they can't contain him, and that's kind of like
Yeah,
what it is. Like a peak athlete, a good athlete, you know, you you can't stop a good athlete from like scoring points if they want to.
no.
You can only try to limit how much they can do it, but you can't stop them
Mhm.
entirely. And I think that's exactly what happens in the movies. Like you start seeing, they're still scoring points, they're still making shots. It's a close game, but then they're, losing points, but they want to bring it back to the teens. And then you're looking at like what the coach is telling them is like he's relying a lot on Ryota to dictate the play, and he wants the
Yeah,
team
and then you have the opposing coach with the
mustache. Yeah.
mustache. He looked kind of cool.
Yeah, he was.
He was very stoic.
He was
You
really.
got Colonel Sanders on the other side. I think they made him a lot fatter in this movie. I looked at the original animation. I was just like, Jesus,
Yeah, yeah. No,
put
I mean
on some lbs.
yeah, yeah. No, but that's kind of like he's kind of a lovable figure.
Yeah, yeah, I can definitely see it kind of feels like the heart of the team.
He's kind of the heart of the team, and
Yeah.
he guides the team, and I think the main thing he tells them, you see the reference in this is like when Hanamichi tells him, "Oh, you're giving up," and he's like, "Game's already lost if you give up." And then
Yep.
that's like the principle of what he teaches his team in the anime is like, you
Mhm.
should never give up, because when you give up, the game's over. And
Mhm.
that kind of what inspires the team to like play well and want to win even when they don't win. So, and that's why I say like for me the underdog's always the winner. And if they're not the winner, they're the winners who don't win, because they they will always be considered the winner for me. But like I wanted to get your opinion on the soundtrack. Like, do you feel like the rock music did it for you?
Yeah, it was all right.
So it was
It didn't
composed.
subtract.
It was
Yeah,
it was
I thought.
composed by this Japanese band called 10 Feet, who also did
Okay.
the ending. I think the soundtrack's an absolute. banger. Like for me, it was
Yeah.
like a big. Again, it was another big element that made the sequence of play like even more exhilarating. Like it gave it that jolt of energy needed to keep you in it. But yeah, and it kind of contrasts really well with some of the melancholic bits that you hear in the flashback, which can come across as like really poignant and profound. But when the music's rocking and the game is in action, you're just like,
Yeah, I can say it moved me at times, but it wasn't like the be all end all for me. It was so this movie when the game is being played, it's hype. It's for sure hype. It is tournament arc. It is that type of shonen. Get out of your seat and start cheering for an anime basketball game. It's
yeah,
yeah. When you're really into it, sports can be fun.
it can be, yeah. But like as someone who you wouldn't consider yourself to be like a sports fan.
No, I'm not, and I haven't been since I like 20 years ago when I was a little kid.
Mm. But that didn't stop you from like enjoying the way the movie
Yeah,
was.
no, I enjoyed. I'm a shonen enjoyer. That's really what it is. It's I Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah,
That was my 90s. It was over the top action, over the top guitar riffs, over the top everything.
yeah.
Now, did the anime at that time probably run too long and have on the next episode of Dragon Ball Z? I'm sure Slam Dunk had something similar to that where they would do like an opportune cliffhanger
Yeah,
until the next
that
episode.
was literally how it was. You just
Yeah, and at 100 something episodes, you kind of expect that.
yeah. Those were the way animes were made back in the day. It was like to keep
Mm-hmm.
you, you'd come back from school and you'd look forward to the next episode every
Mm-hmm.
every week. That's kind
And
of
then Namek exploded for like 3 years.
yeah, yeah. For 3 years, yeah. You'd just be watching it religiously. It would
You're
kind of
like,
be a
man,
routine.
any day now. Every Saturday, I'd just be hyped.
Yeah, and that's kind of part of your. It becomes part of your growing up, like part of your.
Yeah,
It was
it
part of my
definitely did.
childhood. Watching like Pokemon at
Shonen
5
anime, yeah.
p.m. every day, or like
Yeah.
Dragon Ball Z.
Yep. Before The Simpsons was on, we watched Pokemon.
Yeah, I mean, it just becomes like one of those things that you just can't miss or go about your day without
Right.
watching it. And I think like the fact that this gets the opportunity to complete that vision, that I think I was just thinking like, imagine the fans who were like, they must be probably in their 30s or whatever, 40s, I don't
Right.
know, by now, or they could be like nearly middle aged, and they never probably got the chance to see how it would have ended, because I believe the last few episodes of the anime is literally filler. It's not even
Oh
canon.
God.
It's not even canon.
Oh. Oh.
So what happens is like they reach the tournament, and that's about it. You don't get to see the big, game where they compete in the tournament. And I think a lot of fans were, you know, quite upset that it didn't get to complete that.
All right.
So the fact that you get to do that here, but do it in such a way where, okay, we can change things around so that new people
Mhm.
can be fans too. It's not just fan service for
Well,
like the
right.
originals, but we'll also make it in a way where like, okay, let's get new people to watch this and, get them to be fans too, or get them to be invested in watching
All right.
a movie about a basketball match. Like it's so random, right? As a premise, like, oh, this
Mhm.
basketball team, I don't know.
Trying to talk your friends into going to the theater with you to a basketball anime they've never heard of.
Yeah, it's kind of daunting, don't you think? Like nine times
Yeah,
out of
yeah, yeah.
10.
You just gotta go. Trust me, bro. Trust me.
Ex-
Have I ever steered you wrong?
exactly. You just got to be like, yo,
And then you go, no, you haven't. I will give you this one.
yeah. No, I think like, I don't know. Out of all the characters, obviously Ryota gets the most character development. Like, what was your impressions on him? Like, what did you think of him as a character?
You talking of
Number 7, the broccoli hair kid.
pop broccoli hair.
Yeah,
It's hard to keep his name straight.
yeah.
And then you add a number, and then I'm just like, shit.
The shortest guy in the pitch.
Broccoli hair. Broccoli hair.
Broccoli hair. Yeah.
I couldn't care less about broccoli hair. Sagaragi's my man.
Sakuragi's the G. But
Yeah.
what did you think of like Ryota's story and character development?
Like, sucks to suck, I guess. I liked the touch with the red armband. I liked that.
Yeah,
because it was like his carrying on his legacy for his brother, but
also his shoes, his sneakers.
yeah. Oh, and his shoes. Okay,
Yeah,
the same size. Wow.
Yeah,
Fancy.
yeah,
Got lucky there.
yeah.
Yeah. He like it. It sucks, but I wasn't that invested in him. I'm gonna be honest.
Okay, no, that's completely fair.
Nope, Sakuragi. That's the only guy I cared about.
But that just shows like if Sakuragi made so much of an impression while not even being the main
character.
Imagine how much you'd love this anime watching it from his...
No, I probably would have loved it. If I would have...
Trust me, I watched it and it was amazing.
Slam Dunk wasn't on Toonami, so I didn't watch it. That's pretty much what it was.
So for me, like, here's what I think. I think I was completely shocked to see what they did with Ryota's backstory, because when you watch the anime, you don't get any of it. You just see a very, like, one-dimensional character profile where, like,
right. That he's a punk. That
he's
really
a punk. Yeah, he's kind of a punk. He's good. He's a valuable member of the team, but you don't really get to see what he went to deep. But what the movie does is like it gets really profound with his backstory. Like you said, it sucks what happened to him, what he had to go through in his childhood, trying to be a brother, being the only male figure in his family, being bullied. I was just like gut wrenched looking at that one scene where I think he meets up with his mother and sister again, and then he tries to write her a letter before leaving. And he scribbles, "I'm sorry, I was the only one alive." And then he
Jesus.
He tears it apart and he throws it in the bin, and he writes a different letter, and he ends up writing a kind of a thank you note where he tells his mother, like he apologizes, like he couldn't be like his brother, but he thanks her for like letting him still play basketball and still do this, and also kind of like his mother deciding to like move towns so that he can have a fresh start to his life after what happened. But I thought that was really touching. But then when you look at like Sakuragi, I think it's incredible what he goes through in the anime. And what I loved was like you only get this one sequence, right? So what happens is while the match is happening, Sakuragi tries to save the ball from going out of the play. And he absolutely...
he jumps into the stance, basically.
Yeah, he just
flips a table. Yeah.
He rams into the table out of play, and he completely fucks up his back.
But he saves the ball and keeps the ball in play.
Yeah, which is really valuable because it leads to it leads to a few points, because Rukawa converts that into a point. But then you kind of see this little bickering between Rukawa, the long-haired dude, with Sakuragi. They're kind of like in the anime. This is important. They're rivals. This is important backstory. Yeah. So, Sakuragi has a crush on the captain's daughter, but the captain's daughter... No, the captain's sister. Sorry, not daughter. The captain's sister, the younger sister. But the captain's sister has a crush on Rukawa. So that's why Sakuragi hates Rukawa.
Makes sense. Love triangles.
Yeah, that's why he's always like trying to say, I'm better than you. I'm gonna kick your ass, even though he knows that Rukawa's a lot more talented. But what it leads is like it leads to this rivalry between them where Rukawa's like, "You're an idiot. You're just like a fool in the team. And then, but in the end, you kind of see them starting to trust each other. Like Rukawa looks at him
Yep.
and he tells him, "Look, you know," he basically taunts him, but he's doing that because he's taunting him in a way where he expects him to like be in the team, not because he hates him. You can see this bond building, even though like it's kind of passive aggressive, but it's actually like friendly. He's actually kind of
Yeah, like Vegeta and Goku.
exactly. That's perfect. You just summed it up right
Yeah.
there. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
Vegeta.
because Vegeta is an egocentric asshole
Yeah.
and Goku's just the best.
Yeah, yeah. And that's exactly what happens. He tells him like, "Look, yeah, you're just wasting time." And I like he gets irritated. He jumps up right up and he's like, "What do you think who do you think you're talking to?" And then he realizes, oh, he fucks up his back. And
Oh,
that's a big moment in the game because Sakuragi, when he came back on the pitch the first time, he's the main reason the team starts to make a comeback.
right.
He's
He's keeping them in the game.
he's keeping him in the game. He's rebounding. He's like blocking shots. He's like giving them that jolt of energy to wake up and like fight back. Like we can come back. It's like willpower. It's not skill. It's not like pure skill. It's not like he just miraculously making shots or, scoring points. He's just there and providing that energy, that belief that the team lacks in that moment, which actually inspires them to fight back. But when he fucks up his back, they start to realize, oh shit, like he's incapable of playing 100%.
Right.
We gotta take advantage of this situation. We gotta exploit this. We you know double mark him. Don't let him jump. Pressurize him more. The team's gonna struggle, and that's exactly what starts to happen. You get to see like the team is struggling once he gets injured. Even though he shrugs it off, he's like, "No, I can still play." But it gets to a point where it's like he makes an incredible like shot where he like rebounds and he scores from a dunk, but it gets called off because it was a foul earlier, and then he nearly
Hmm.
collapses and he has to be
Hmm.
he has to be taken out. You know, and you see at that moment where like he's on the floor on the bench and he's like thinking about himself. He's thinking about this like, is this done? Like, is my career over? Is this like it for me? Like everything I put into this? And you see like a very brief flashback. It's like the only flashback, and I think it's a good flashback. I don't know if you remember it, but it's like
Yeah, yeah.
you kind of see like him with long hair when he's just joined the team. And in that few flashbacks, it kind of it's a direct reference, a direct callback from the anime where you see when he first joins the team to like when he was a delinquent to when he starts to like play well, he becomes like part of the team. You start to see that he's putting in a lot of effort. Like he's trying to make 2,000 shots. He's learning how to hit a jump shot where he's doing it 2,000 times. You're seeing like all that sacrifice, all the commitment, all that time and effort that he's put into to actually seriously commit to the team. And it just hits to him. And he tells the coach, like, like you gotta put me out there. And the coach is like, look, I noticed like something was wrong right away. And I really enjoyed seeing you improve, but it will be one of the biggest regrets of my life.
Irresponsible. I don't
Exactly.
want you to ruin your career.
Exactly. And then he just like he looks at the coach and he tells him like, "What was your glory days when you were like national champion?" He's like, "Mine's right now. Like you got to put me out there right now." And he puts him out there. He goes back. And I thought that was like that for me was like the most pivotal point in the movie because at this point you're thinking like is he even capable of like finishing the game? Like how is he going to cuz like
It's gonna limp onto that
I
field.
swear to God, because one of the next sequences in the game is like where he again dives and he like saves the ball from going out of play and he bangs up his back again, and you can see like he's just like He's doing the bare minimum at this point. Like he can barely.
He's like, I'm gonna take a nap.
It's like you can see like he's doing everything he can to just like help the team, even though
Mhm.
he can barely stand, he can barely run. He's in a horrible shape, and you're just thinking like, damn, like what's gonna happen? Like these guys are how are these guys gonna be able to compete with one man down,
Mhm.
basically. But like I thought that was like it was a very important moment for his character because like in that few seconds it gives you everything. It tells you everything about like who he was and what he's gone through. And it just tells you everything about him, you know? Like I had this conversation with a friend a few weeks ago. We were talking about like how, you know, some of the greatest to have ever done it in their respective fields were surely like really talented, but it wasn't always just talent that got them by. It was always like belief, self belief, and like being a mentality monster. And then we were talking about like, oh, what would we rather be? Would you rather be, just purely gifted raw natural talent, or would you rather be a mentality monster who never gives up, has that belief to like persevere through adversity, and has the resilience and the tenacity to pull through? And I think like when you look at like the stuff you go through setbacks in life, and I think the thing that gets you by is that resilience and that tenacity, and that's what he represents. That's what makes him such MVP in the story.
Right.
'Cause-
Strong character.
yeah, because like he doesn't have the best skills. He's still an amateur, but he has
Right.
this unwavering spirit of an underdog that is about never giving up. And that is like so clutch for what we see in the movie. Like I think the like what it results into is like that final sequence of play was like
Mhm.
one of the
The
best moments I've ever seen in a sports related movie
the
ever.
no sound in the buzzer beater shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked that. I liked that too.
I mean,
That's pretty great.
it gets to a point where I
You can
think
hear your heartbeat.
yeah, you can hear your heartbeat, but I think there was a scene where the coach, the mustache coach of the opposition, he looks at the situation and he's like, you know, in the end it's going to come down to sheer willpower. You know, whoever's going to win it, it's just going to come down to sheer willpower. And that's so true because like, you know, it gets to a point where you can do everything tactically. You can make adjustments, which they do. They try to get different players to sub in and out. You can like play a different style. But when the game gets like that close, it's all about willpower and who has it to like, get it over the line. And you see like that sequence of play where there's like a minute left or something, and Sano has the ball and they just make this darting run and they score, and they manage to like, get the lead. And then it just like a whole soundtrack goes quiet and all you hear is like this beating clock, like it's your heartbeat. And you see like you see the they try to rebound, they try to go, like Shohoku's trying to attack, and I think Akagi has the ball, the captain, and he throws it to Rukawa, and Rukawa is going for the ball, like he's going for the basket. He wants to like score the winning shot. And at this point, like what was going through your mind? Because like, did you expect?
Well, him to pass.
Yeah,
He had to.
it was it
He,
was it was
he had to pull his head out of his ass to help win the game.
yeah, because he never passes. He
Yeah.
never, and
Yeah.
that's like what he realizes when he's dueling 1v1 with the opposition's ace. He realizes the only way to get around, because he's so heavily marked, is he needs to
Mhm.
start making use of his teammates and create scoring opportunities for them so that they can score if he can't. And that's when he realizes, when he's making that final sequence of play with like few seconds down the clock, there's like two people crowding him, and he makes that pass to Sakuragi, and Sakuragi scores that game-winning jumper. I thought that was like pretty impressive. Like I was like at the edge of
And
my seat.
and in basketball, if the ball's in the air and it lands in the basket after the clock shot, it's in.
Yeah, it counts.
Yep.
If the shot's taken before the buzzer, it counts.
Yep.
And if it goes
It
in,
counts.
and that's exactly what happens.
That's why they call it a buzzer beater.
Yep, it's a buzzer beater. That's what Sakuragi does, is he manages to like, and this is again a reference to all those hours he put in where he tried to practice 2000 jump shots. It all paid off. This is that moment where he finally gets the scoring opportunity and he scores the most clutch point in the game. Just when you expect that he would be like completely taken out. And that whole sequence is like incredible. When I watched it, like I went with a friend and both of us were like, we were at the edge of our seats and we had our hearts in our mouth. We were just like, what the fuck is going to happen? It was so exhilarating at that stage when he scored that winning point. But what was your take on that final sequence of play?
Much hype.
Paid off? Does it pay off?
Yeah, paid off. It's paid off. Much hype.
Yeah.
I liked it.
And what struck me was like it was a very kinetic scene, but it really struck me that they did a scene where like they show you the Sano player who like he's at the shrine and he's praying and he's like, I proved, like I won everything. I proved I have nothing left to prove. So I just hope you give me like the experience I need for me to like, go to the next stage to like basically, like I've got nothing else left. Like give me whatever experience I need to get better. And this is like a direct like reference to what he gets, and what he gets is a loss against this team, which is a big upset. It's a very like it's ironic in a way, but it's like it's kind of like adversity. It's kind of like what do you have to go through. Sometimes you got to like lose. Sometimes you got to lose. It's
to win.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. Like a lot of people who achieve something or become great at something didn't just get there purely by winning all the time.
Right. By dumb luck.
Exactly.
No, it's a lot of hard work and determination.
Yeah, it is. And it captures that, human struggle. It captures that drive to win, but it also humanizes what it means to want to win. Because quite often when you watch like shonen anime, it's like, oh, like I'll defeat this guy and I'll be the greatest. But to recontextualize that in a way where like you're showing, oh no, like this is real life. Like you have to like the realism of it all really got to me. I didn't expect, because the anime is not like that. The anime is about life lessons, but it's not like so deep in that regard where it's like trying to show you like this is what it takes. This is the sacrifices. This is like, the lessons you have to learn in order to get to where you want to be. And that really struck me. I didn't expect that when I watched it. And I guess it's really inspiring, when you watch stuff like this. It kind of gets you pumped up. And yeah, it definitely got me pumped up. But it really.
Can you shoot a 3-pointer now?
I definitely practice a lot. I love trying to shoot 3-pointers, not gonna lie.
Yeah. I can't for the life of me.
No.
And I definitely can't dunk.
No,
I'm 5'8". I can't dunk.
No, I'm like 6'1". Like I'm not nowhere near tall enough to like dunk, but I like
just raise your arm and go bloop.
Maybe I can hit a floater, but not a dunk.
Yeah, I'm sure I could do a relay.
Yeah,
or a layup.
A layup.
I could do a layup.
A layup.
I could do a layup.
A layup.
Yeah, Can bounce it off the backboard. I can do that.
Yeah. Yeah, you could do like
Or a granny shot from half court where
I've hit
where
a
you go
few
between your legs
I've hit a few like miraculous half court shots out of my ass.
with one hand. It's just chuck shot putting it like a fucking baseball.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean like it's like it's the thrill of it, you know. It's the thrill
Mhm.
of the sport and what it does to you.
Mhm.
But it really the movie really ends there, and I guess like you get like one scene where you see that Ryota ends up in America playing college
Mhm.
basketball. And you also see the guy who I mentioned, Sawakira, the ace from the Sano team,
Mhm.
who I mentioned in that flashback, prays for that experience. What he gets is a loss. So you see that he's in the opposition team, also in
Mhm.
America, playing college basketball. So turns out, you know, both of them made it, and they, you know, and the movie really ends over there. But I thought it was a really good ending. Like I remember
Mhm.
we watched
Oh, so much better than ping pong.
exact.
Oh my god.
I remember we
Adi, I was
watched.
so happy.
I
So
remember I
happy.
was
I was so,
remembering our ping pong review, and you're like particularly disappointed with the way that final
yeah,
match.
you're like, oh, John's gonna like this. I
Yeah,
did.
it just didn't hit the same. But
Yeah,
did
no,
this
I liked it.
did you like the idea of setting this in across one match as opposed to having multiple
Yeah,
matches?
yeah, I think it worked for the most part. Maybe get rid of a couple of those flashbacks. Some of the flashbacks work for me, some of them don't.
Which ones didn't work?
Some, well, okay, so like you said, he was writing that note.
Yeah.
That didn't work for me because I don't even remember that he did that.
Yeah, it was actually in the subtitles. You wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, I was probably just checked out. I think I checked out every time there's a flashback because I didn't really care.
Yeah, I mean, I can see why it would
Yeah,
put you out of the action for sure when you want to watch the
right.
game, but at the same
Yeah,
time, it's kind of like it's a struggle of like trying to give you context.
right. Try to catch you up
Yeah.
for for 101 episode anime. Yeah, I get that.
No, but like not for 101 episode for this particular character's backstory
Yeah,
because
right. Because none of that was there.
no, none of that was there. But
Yep.
what you get snippets of like, you know,
Mhm.
like Sakuragi fucking around
That's
with
all
the
I want.
captain. Like, you
I
know.
just want all Sakuragi. That's all I want.
you
I
get
just want all Sakuragi.
you get to see his friend group as well in the stands, including
Yeah.
including
Yeah.
the captain's sister who he has a crush on. You get to see some of the staff in the team, like
Mhm.
the manager with the hat.
Mhm.
She's a very
Yeah, the chick that one of the guys is, I'm sure, smitten for.
yeah, Ryota is, yeah. There's actually
Yep.
he kind of has a crush on her, and
Who could you blame?
and
You know,
she writes in his
she's a cutie,
palm. She writes in his palm like number one guard, and that kind of reminds him like go and win, you know, go and
right?
be the number one guard, point guard. And yeah, you get to see like I mean, if you're a fan of the anime, you will not be disappointed by what you
Right.
see in the movie because everything you love so much is there. It's already there. Now, if you're a first time viewer and you've never seen anything before, but you feel invigorated by what you've seen, you
Mhm.
find the characters interesting, then I'm sure, you know, you could quench that thirst by watching the anime, you know, just like binge watching it on your free
With a
time.
filler guide, let's be real.
So like I would say
I have it open. It's like episode 35 to 30. Like I have it all. I have it.
okay,
It's all ready.
great. I would say there's like
If I,
I wouldn't say there's a lot of filler. I think there's
yeah,
like
it's probably not as bad as Naruto,
no,
where
no,
it's a
no,
whole
no, 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 no,
season, or
no, no.
One Piece or Bleach.
I wouldn't say the problem with the anime is not that it has a lot of filler, but the fact that a lot of the arcs like is set around say one game, but
Okay.
it takes like nearly 14 episodes to get through that
Jesus.
one game because there's like they're just stretching
All
it.
right.
They're just stretching
So
it.
I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait for a Dragon Ball Kai treatment to this anime. Got it.
But you know, but I suppose that was just like the way the
They were
showrunners,
made that way.
yeah, the
Yeah.
showrunners made anime that way. I'm sure like it's not just anime, even like
Right.
like other types of shows on TV, like reruns of like old great shows.
You got to make syndication so you can make the big bucks.
Yeah, they just always continue, or there's always like this kind of cliffhanger element to it. So it's not like, I guess there's like shows that are like, oh, this is the, mystery of the week or the crime case of the week, but
Right.
then there's shows
Case
where
closed.
exactly.
Detective Conan.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, yeah, which is going on for forever, right? There's like over 1,000 episodes.
Well, all of those shonen anime are way over that.
Yeah, and Slam
And
Dunk.
if they aren't way over that, they have like 4 different reimaginings or sequels with different characters or prequels, what have you.
Yeah, yeah. No, and what Slam Dunk does is it's not that it's a lot more tame than One
Mhm.
Piece or Naruto or Dragon Ball Z. You don't have to go through millions of episodes if you want to enjoy it. You could like, I think the
Right.
beauty of the show is that you could just tune in.
Passively watch it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you could passively watch any episode and still have a laugh, still love it.
Okay.
There's that nostalgic, timeless quality to the anime.
Probably watch the sub. The dubs of that time weren't the best.
The dubs are, I actually watched both because there's some
Okay.
episodes that were not subbed. I mean, not dubbed. And then there were
Not
some
dubbed.
episodes that were only subbed. And they were both
Okay.
great. They were both great. In fact, if I'm
Okay.
not mistaken, some of the voice actors return for the movie from the
Okay.
original. So
Cool.
I think it's pretty cool that they did that because again, it just like adds that element of familiarity. Like these characters,
And it also shows the fans that they care.
they care. Yeah. And look, this is
When an anime studio has a different new dub staff from the last season, it
look,
really
it's made
messes you up.
it's made by the same production company,
Exactly.
Toei Animation, you know, which aired in 1995. This movie made $279 million in the box office. I believe it was one of the highest grossing films that year in Japan, and it is the highest grossing basketball film of all time. So I think it still has, like I said, it
Can you
was
think of any other basketball anime? I can't.
not, no, not just anime. I said
Oh,
basketball
just
films of all
film.
time.
In
Like any movie about basketball, basically. This is like the highest grossing.
isn't Japan isn't baseball more popular?
I think now I don't know, maybe back in the day, baseball was,
Yeah.
but I think basketball's appeal is like become quite global now.
Okay. Thanks, Slam Dunk.
Slam Dunk
Thank you.
definitely had a cultural moment. I think, there's another cool reference that Sakuragi wears Jordan 1s, and he's wearing the iconic bread Jordan 1s, the black and red colorway. And the story behind that is so cool. It's actually a gift that he receives after he fucks up his shoes in the anime and he doesn't have like a pair to afford.
Right.
Those were like gifted to him
Mm.
by his crush, who's the captain's
Aw.
sister. And that's what he wears. And I think it's so cool that he wears Jordan 1s because like the whole like Shohoku team and the way they played, like their color wave, it's all a reference to like the Chicago Bulls.
Yep. Chicago Bulls.
And
Yep. Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen.
exactly, the OG Bulls who are the greatest basketball team of all time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you see all these like trademarks and hallmarks to the basketball culture
Bulls.
and to the Bulls. I think it's really cool. I really love that reference. There's like it's just stuff like which you'd normally not pick up if you're not a fan, or you may pick up or not think much about it, but it's cool that it's a little detail that's there. But anyways, let's wrap this up. Do you want to
Hell
give it
yeah.
do you want to give it a final
Yeah.
rating?
Sure will. So the first Slam Dunk took me a bit to get interested into it, but got past that 3D animation. I got used to it. Kind of made me interested in the anime. Now, am I going to go check it out? Maybe, maybe not. But like I was saying, the 3D animation doesn't completely ruin it. You got a nice motley crew of characters. You got somebody for everybody. My favorite, the redhead,
Sakuragi.
Sakuragi. Yep. And you got the Michael Jordan wannabe, and you got gory dunk guy, the gigantic ogre man. You got all these cool different characters. Like I was saying before, like some of the flashbacks, I really felt like it like stopped all the action for me. Although I still enjoyed this. It was a lot of hype. I liked the buzzer beater. This was a good watch. Like we were saying before, I personally am not the biggest sports guy, but I like this one. 8 out of 10.
That is a lot higher than I expected you to rank it.
Yeah. Yep. I rank it above Ping Pong the animation.
Yeah, well, ping pong, I think, wasn't a high
But
bar.
Keijo is the number one 10 out of 10 sports anime for me, but we
No.
probably won't ever review it because it's basically
For the
softcore porn.
for the wrong reasons. For the wrong reasons.
Yes, for the wrong reasons, of course. Because you got to see those chicks push each other with their butts. It's
Oh my god.
so great.
This is the part of the review where it gets like NC-17.
Nah, won't go. It won't go too far.
No.
Well, Adi, what was your final thoughts of the first slam dunk?
Well, what can I say? When it comes to the first slam dunk, what makes this film truly great is not that it's just an adaptation of one of the most beloved manga series of all time, but the fact that it elevates the material into something deeply cinematic and emotionally resonant. The animation, like we said, is dynamic, kinetic, and it really feels like you're in that court watching the ball in play. The use of 3D blended with traditional hand-drawn detail creates such a unique style that respects the legacy of Slam Dunk while pushing it into the modern era. The game sequences are kind of like choreographed battles that they're never just spectacle, they're also grounded in strategy, psychology, and heart. But what takes it over the top storytelling wise for me is the fact that Takehiko Inoue, the creator director of the manga, the anime, and this film, decides to center the story across Miyagi's perspective. I think that was a genius move. His backstory, his grief, his resilience gives the game the emotional stakes that it takes beyond the scoreboard. You're not just watching a basketball game, but you're also watching a young man carry his past, his family. The pacing for me is immaculate. I loved the tension in every frame when the game was in play. There was a lot of payoff and emotion. The sound design was incredible. The Foley work was incredible. The squeaking of sneakers, the ball bouncing, all the ball hitting the paint, the sound of the ripple of the swoosh. Everything was just like incredibly designed when it came to the sound element. And it's just beautifully married with this rock soundtrack that just gives it this kinetic, this rocking energy. It's an absolute fucking banger composed by this band 10 Feet. And I think it's rare to see a film that captures both the intensity of competition and the intimacy of human struggle with this level of precision. It's not just a great anime. I would say it's one of the best sports films ever made. And I don't normally give movies 10 out of 10. You've seen me in this podcast. I don't think I've ever given anything a 10 out of 10 so far. But this movie is
Definitely gotten close.
This movie for me is a 10 out of 10 because it does something unique, which will make you love it if you're a diehard fan, and it'll still make it accessible for newer fans. And it's like the new generation of kids who watch this will still carry it on forward. And the older generation that grew up, loving it in the 90s and the early 2000s, they will just be like in dreamland. They'll be loving it. It's just amazing. It's to see that vision to complete what they never got to see in the anime, to get the opportunity to complete that story, but do it in such a way where you're giving another character meaning, and you're doing it in a way where you're modernizing it, but also you know everything that you love about the anime is there. Sakuragi Hanamichi is like, he's the MVP. He's the heart and soul of this movie. As he's the MVP for me. And I'm a big fan of this. So maybe I'm a bit biased, but it's strongly a 10 out of 10.
Couldn't have just said better myself.
Yeah, I'm sorry for the rant, but I'm just like,
no, you're good. You're good.
It's such
I know you love this. You watched it 4 times, Adi.
Yeah, and
you can have that.
I don't do that. I don't do that very often.
I know you don't. I know you don't.
This movie's message is so universally timeless, but it's really about belief. That's what it is. Belief to overcome your mental battles and struggles in life, which everyone goes through. That's what's relatable. And that's what makes the first slam dunk a masterpiece. It's timeless. But, that concludes our review. If you're interested, please watch the anime. There's like 100 episodes. But also, if you're a manga reader, go read the manga and check out the movie. It's streaming on Netflix. It's widely available. And yeah, that concludes this review.
All right. So we're going to go into the rec real quick.
Let's do it.
It's Halloween. It's getting there. It's October 2nd as of this recording. So, yeah, we're spoopy time. So I'm going to pick something that always gets me in the Halloween mood. Not necessarily the Halloween movie, but a nice dark comedy. It's Satanic Panic 2019, directed by Chelsea Stardust. Now, is this the greatest movie of all time? No, but this movie cracks me the hell up. So there's this girl named Sam. She delivers a pizza to this crazy mansion in the middle of nowhere. She comes across a house full of Satanists. What? They find out she's a virgin. Find out next time on the 2-Act podcast if Sam survives a night of chaos. I'm going to go practice my jump shot. See you, Space Cowboy.
See ya.